Hey there, welcome once again. I'm glad to see you back. At least, hopefully, you've come back. This is part three of my Ahriman Devotee series. Session three, I'm calling it. Session one of Ahriman, who is one of my primordials in the Vaults remastered. The Vaults are my subterranean under earth, my Darklands analog. And Ahriman has worshippers, clerics, and champions. I call them devotees. So the champions of Ahriman, this is what part three is all about for this video. So let's go ahead and dive into this thing. Fair warning, some of this homebrew here is going to be speculative because we don't have a remastered version of the champion yet for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. That's not coming out till, I don't know, a few months from now here in 2024. So I'm just going to make do with what I got, what I know. And if things change when the champion comes out, well, then I'll make some edits then. But in the meantime, here we go. The code. What code does the champion follow? Now, if you're familiar with Pathfinder champions, the original 2E version, champions were all had to be a good aligned creature, right? And then I think it was Dark Magic when that came out. That supplement they allowed for evil um, champions. Well, now that good and evil alignments are gone, what the heck's going to happen to the champions? Well, I am imagining that anything goes moving forward, and that you're going to have maybe kind of like schools of magic where you're going to have, holy and unholy, and, somewhere in between options for your champions. And they'll have maybe orders or something like that you can, the Knights of the Rose or whatever, right? So anyway, I'm kind of going with that concept that anything goes, and there's different sort of orders or codes. And the code I'm talking about here is the disruptor. This is what I'm calling these. So they're not paladins, which would be like a lawful good champion. These guys are disruptors. This is what the believers of Ahriman, so the chaotic champions. They're known as disruptors. They're driven by codes and causes. We're going to talk about the code here in a second. We're going to get into the cause in a minute that align with the Godbreaker's ethos here. They're protectors of freedom. They're agents of chaos. They're warriors against tyranny. So even though this image kind of makes you think, man, this guy is like an evil person, not necessarily. If he was, smashing through your door, but not to murder you, but to go, murder the slave holders that had you penned up in the basement or something like that, you'd be very welcome to this person coming on in. Or if they sacked the city, not to rape and pillage, but to destroy the slave guild that was operating out there, or to take down the tyrannical ruler of the city. Whatever, they would definitely be welcome. Okay. So anyway, let's take a look at what is the code of these disruptors. There's four things here. They're revolutionaries. They seek to challenge the status quo. Primary goal, freeing themselves, freeing others from oppression, tyranny of societal constructs, especially the constructs that come derive from divine belief. So if there's some sort of religious order, that's keeping everybody suppressed and oppressed, these guys would be like, no, we're overturning that. Second bit of their code here is they're liberators, or they believe in liberation. They adhere to the code that prioritizes breaking chains, literal chains, metaphorical chains. They champion the cause of freedom, keeping societies clear of oppression, tyranny, restrictive dogma, that sort of thing. Transformation. These guys believe in, the necessity of upheaval and growth. That if the society's become too stagnant, if it's become too rigid, it's time to change. And if that means tear it all down and start from the scratch, they're all for it. Defiance. This is another thing. They're not going to stand in line, okay? Part of their code is rejecting, especially divine moral authorities that are trying to, impose rigid control. You must do this on this day. You can't eat meat on this day. They're like, what? No, absolutely not. Whatever it is, this, some sort of, again, kind of use a little bit silly examples, but think about, all the do's and don'ts that you're taught from religion type of thing. These guys would fight against that sort of constraints. All right, what else do we know about these champions, these disruptors. Their cause, they're following the crusade of renewal. Their belief is that through upheaval of existing structure, there's going to be a new liberated state can be achieved. This cause appeals to people who seek to challenge that status quo. They want to break free from constraint. They want to shape a new reality. They're seeing the next world. They're seeing the next society, right? They're like, hey, what we've got now, it's too constraining, too confined. We need to get rid of it and just start fresh. Okay, they want to shape that new reality. They want to be there. So what are parts of these causes, this crusade? Unbridled freedom. They're drawn to Ahriman because of this idea of absolute freedom. They see what he's teaching is the path to achieving that state of existence where you're not bound by rules. You can, whatever rules you make, you are free. You're a free man, free woman. Do what you want. Anarchic balance. Some of these guys and gals are going to believe the world's in a state of imbalance right now because there's too much law, there's too much order, there's too much being told what to do. And so they're pledging to restore balance by injecting some anarchy, some chaos. Anti-tyranny. Some of these crusaders, these disruptors here, they are they have lived through, they have seen tyrannical rule, they've seen oppression. And Ahriman is the resistance. They see what he has done and fought against the gods and how he has been suffering in prison because of it. And so they're aligning with him because they want to take down those types of structures in these regimes. And lastly, there's this philosophical anarchy, especially amongst the more intellectual champions. They were pondering the meaning of freedom and existence and like, is this ordained? Is this destiny? Is it part of the cosmic balance? What is it? And so they're aligning with Ahriman because they believe, he's necessary. Chaos is necessary in order to prevent stagnation of the universe that order brings about. And so they look at it from that sort of philosophical, intellectual discussion side of things. All right, and then as far as mechanics go, in practice, how do these disruptors work? Well, the champions in Pathfinder, they get two main things. They get a reaction, champion's reaction, and then they get some sort of devotion spell. So for my champions here of Ahriman, my disruptors, they get the Unchained reaction. So if the champion or an ally within 15 feet is targeted by an attack, they're subjected to an effect that would impose some sort of orderly condition, control, restriction, something that's going to apply a condition that is preventing somebody from moving or whatever. The champion can tap into the anarchic power of Ahriman. They channel this counterburst of chaotic energy to neutralize the condition. And I'm not 100% sure on the mechanics here. I got to look this up, but the way I'm kind of picturing this, it's like a counter spell or like a counteract check. So almost like, mage versus mage effect. And maybe I'm overthinking this. I don't know if this is even a thing. But the idea is this. So some effect is coming, something is happening, and whatever that thing is, they can burst out this energy and counteract it by making their own die roll. And the idea being whoever's, heavier or not heavier, higher, can have crit success, whatever. So again, maybe too complicated. I don't know, but I kind of like the idea a little bit. So we'll see if it mechanically how that works out. And then the second part here, the devotion spell that these champions would get is Chaos Surge. It's an action. It's got a range of touch. You can target a creature. It lasts for a minute. You infuse a target with the power of liberation that can be sustained for a minute. And then the creature gains a random benefit. So they roll a d6. They either get +1 to their attack rolls, they get +1 to their AC, they get a d6 of additional damage on their attacks. Just some random burst of this chaos energy that is going to help keep them free, sort of a thing. All right, so there you go. That's what I've got for my followers here, my devotees of Ahriman. Final thoughts are these. As you look at, summarizing everything I've went through over the last three parts to this video. These followers, these devotees of Ahriman, they embrace chaos, they embrace anarchy. And this is the big thing for them. They're gonna emphasize disruption. So if you're a player character, right? A player, you got this as your character. You're gonna want to emphasize disruption, unpredictability, liberation, and same thing about GM side of things. Like this is the stuff that these clerics should be attempting, that these champions should be doing. Next, transformational disruptive power. So the abilities that they have fall under this umbrella here. Their powers aren't just destroying things and smashing things like chaos, scattering it, but they can transform stuff. They can alter reality. They can manipulate perception. They can break down physical, metaphysical, metaphorical barriers. Third thing that you'll see with these devotees is that they have some unique combat and magical abilities. Some of it's unpredictable, some of it's unorthodox. It's weird. They got spells and skills that are able to sow discord, challenge the norms and the status quo. Fourth, and this is where I think a positive thing that, because again, I think the biggest challenge with these guys is portraying them not as evil. And to me, the fourth one is the part right here. They commit themselves to liberation or subversion, and it doesn't have to be subversion of a goodly organization. They might be subverting the most evil factions, groups, or whatever in your game role. As long as it's lawful evil and it's tyrannical and that sort of thing, it would make total sense that these guys are going to commit to that and overturning it. Fifth thing, complex relationship with reality perception. They can sense and manipulate these abnormal chaotic energies. So they might have a lot of weird, whatever, swirly, chaotic features, energy, glowing eyes, whatever around them. Or just you can kind of role play this as this sort of ESP kind of concept as well, as they're just understanding the universe's chaotic, undercurrents. That might give them greater insights into things that the average character might not recognize. They might take everything as a more universal perspective. And last but not least, they have a sort of this dual role as protectors and challengers. So they're going to protect, not just keeping people free, but they're going to protect areas that are chaotic and just, which I guess is freedom in a sense, but just made the area itself is open and chaotic. It could be a literal chaotic swirling sacred site, or it could be Freetown or whatever you want to call the place, right? And they're also going to be challenging things. They're going to be constantly, they could be pains in the butt, right? They could be, the city guard, hey, where's your passes? I don't need a pass. I could see a character acting that way if they are a follower of Ahriman and a believer in this whole chaos and challenging authority type of thing. They're not gonna respond well to dictates from people, especially if it's some sort of lawful, orderly, divine source. They're just not gonna go for it. All right, well there you go. That's what we've got for the devotees of Ahriman. We had the first episode, or sorry, episode 3 here, session 3 was this whole idea of the devotees. The first part was the basic ideas of benefits that the devotees would get. What sort of bonus spells would they have access to? What skill would they get? What's their font? What's their sanctification? Then the second part, I got into the two clerical doctrines, the war priest and the cloistered doctrines. And then the last one here, I got into my speculation a little bit about champions, and these are the D&D paladins of Pathfinder. These are like the holy warriors. Well, not necessarily holy warriors. These guys are unholy warriors, so it's kind of hard to pigeonhole them. They're more, combatant, heavily armored types, I guess would be the way to contrast them with just a basic cleric. They're much more martial, much more willing to lead an army or bash down some castle gates in order to put down some tyranny. All right, so hopefully that was some interesting, useful information for you. If you have any questions, you have any thoughts on anything I was talking about, go ahead and leave a comment down below. If you're interested in the video, I thought it was pretty fun, pretty cool, you want to see some more vids about some of this homebrew that I've been putting together for my game world, you want to learn more about some of the, not necessarily classes, but just this idea of how you can get some player character use out of your lore. That's what this was really talking about. You want to see more about some ancestries, some more about some primordials. like and subscribe and all that cool stuff. Notify, click that bell, blah, blah, yada, yada. You got the idea, right? All right, I hope you guys have a good night and take care of yourselves. I'll see you in the next video. I'm not 100% sure what it is I'm doing yet. Got a couple ideas, maybe get into a faction or two. And I might even do a deep dive on occultist for Ahriman. I haven't really decided. I came up with a couple ideas when I was working on a video that I put out like a week or so ago about actionable NPCs. So I might deep dive on one of those and weave it into this. I haven't decided yet. So if you have some thoughts on that, comment. All right, peace out.